Hi Tom, great to see you again today. Just to recap on the session that we did in regards to your 120 yard type wedge shots, a shot you're going to get a lot of and a shot that you've got to capitalise on when you do get it. In order to prevent the shot pattern that you were getting originally, what I suggest you do is go from the normal stance you would take your full wedge shots with, and then just try and shorten your swing both sides of the ball. The reason I wouldn't narrow your stance too much is because we want to try and keep the angle of attack and the approach path of the club as similar to a full shot as possible. If we narrow the stance as we were doing initially during your lesson, you're going to find that the angle of attack steepens and the path approaches the ball a little bit too much from the outside, resulting in pulls and weak shots to the right. So take your normal full stance for a wedge, as though you hit a full wedge shot, and then just shorten the swing both sides of the ball. You're trying to take about 10% off the overall distance of the full wedge, therefore you would look at really trying to take about 10% off both sides of the swing. So you can work on that as you go. In regards to your long game, one thing we mentioned today is that you're moving off that golf ball a little bit too much. As we were coming back, we're creating a little bit too much angle here in the spine, so the left shoulder is still working behind the left hip, which you'd expect to see, but there's too much tilt away from the target, if you will, too much angle between the spine at setup, which is straight up and down, and where you arrive at the top of your backswing. If we now look at what we tried to do, which was keep you a little bit more centred on the way back. Now we've still got this angle here where the left shoulder is working further than the left hip, but the angle of your tilt in your spine away from your target is not as severe. From that more centred position, it's going to prevent what we see here on the left hand side as you start down. Because you've tilted away from your target so much, you still expand the right side like you've been doing in previous sessions, but you can see how the spine tilts back. One of the things we did, if you look at probably your second lesson, we saw that as you expanded the right side more, this spine tilt wasn't as substantial. You were much more over the top of the golf ball. From a more centred top of the backswing position, so you've not moved off it as much, as you now expand the right side, we're a little bit more on top of the golf ball here. The spine's not tilting back quite as much, and therefore we can continue to move the hips forward without any need to flip on the way through. If we watch what happens here, because we've tilted away from the target too much on the way back, we've expanded the right side nicely as we would like to, but unfortunately we've still got to now throw the club at the golf ball on the way through. You can see the left side bracing and that left leg or left foot rotating and moving out of the way to accommodate what you're trying to do. Remember what we said, as the spine tilts back, the path of the club now is too much from the inside, and the only way you can get the club back on plane or back on path is by quickly releasing the left side to sort of pull the club back on line. Problem is, when you do that, it takes a tremendous degree of timing, and that's why it's taking 3 or 4 holes before you get a feel for that timing of that movement, and you start to hit the ball much straighter. So what we're looking for is a much more centred backswing position, which allows you then to expand the right side and move through in a quieter manner. I'd like to work a little bit more on your leg action in subsequent lessons, and I'd also like to work on your next session in reducing the amount of flip that we have here. But as I say, what I feel you need to do now is, as well as working on that more centred backswing, I'll just get that up by itself, as well as working on a more centred backswing position, as we see here during the exercise, I'm going to just hold the cane behind your head to stop you moving off the ball too much. You're much more centred top of the backswing position. As well as working on that, what I'd like you to do is watch your first 2 or 3 lessons again, because one of the things we need to do is get you back into this idea of expanding the right side and being above or over the top of the ball as you're coming into impact. And also the little footage you sent me from the teaching room at Exton, where we discussed your hips continuing to move forward. So it's sort of linking today's lesson with those other 2 lessons to try and get yourself back on track and get you working much better through the golf ball. I thought the best you've swung it in the time I've worked with you was during the footage you sent me from the teaching room at Exton. The only issue I had with that swing was that your hips didn't continue to move forward for long enough. So watching that lesson back will do you a world of good. Good luck with it, and I look forward to working with you out on the course in a couple of weeks' time. Well done.